Guru Nation, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. It really means a lot to me. I got asked a simple question that I haven't really done a video on in a long time, and it's how do patients find studies? And there's the textbook version, which is they're usually referred by their physician, who is the principal investigator. And matter of fact, that is still the best way to get patients because they already have the trust factor. And this is our mission with DSCS and with Save Our Sites and with a whole lot of organizations. We have Yuma Clinical Trials to get more community-based clinicians involved in clinical trials. And I think we don't have enough. Something like 3% of physicians are PIs. And it should be a lot more. I think if we get it closer to 10 to 15, that's like a 3 to 5x increase. I think that would be really good for the industry because referred by their physician to the study that the physician's also running the trial on. That's the best way. Academic medical centers do this well. The problem with academic medical centers is they have so many studies going on at any given time, and they have so many different investigators that there's competing interest internally for who's going to get referred to what study. Whereas in the community-based clinicians that run their own sites, there's a less of a selection because smaller sites typically don't have as many studies as the big academic medical centers. Now, there's online, so another textbook before I get to the online versions. Another textbook answer is they just go to clinicaltrials.gov and they'll find the trial. Now that sounds great. That's what that website's actually for. The problem is no patient actually knows about that. Somebody has to tell them. And usually that someone is their physician. And their physician's not going to tell them that unless they are already educated on research, in which case they're probably doing a study. In which case, no new people are getting referred to clinicaltrials.gov. So, clinicaltrials.gov, not to mention the user experience is not the best. It is a government-run website, which are not great if you have experience even paying your taxes with the IRS or going on the SBA website. I mean, it's not very user-friendly. They've tried to make it more user-friendly. It's not. Private industry clearly does that better. I'm going to get to the digital platforms, including one of my own. But the next way patients find about trials is when research sites are empowered to do community outreach. And Yuma Clinical Trials, we try to do this through grassroots, going to doctors' offices in the community, doing lunch and learns, going to events that Yuma has, whether it's a Yuma Jazz Festival that happens during the winter, or whether it's Howling at the Moon. I mean, we've documented these things on our Yuma Clinical Trials, which is my research site, YouTube and Instagram. But we also do community podcast where my research site, Yuma Clinical Trials, highlights local businesses in the community where we actually don't do anything as far as directly advertising our studies, but we'll do a podcast with, let's say, a coffee shop owner. And before the podcast starts, we mention at the beginning of the pod, hey, we're Yuma Clinical Trials. We have studies going on right now for depression, weight loss, cardiovascular disease, heart failure, COPD, and whatever else we may have. Text this number if you're interested. That, believe it or not, actually works. If no one else in the community is going to watch, it's going to be the fans and the family and friends of the business we're interviewing. Not to mention the business stakeholders themselves. The coffee shop is going to know that who we are now, and we can outreach to them. Hey, we're going to drop off flyers. This is how you do community engagement. We talk about this at Save Our Sites conference a lot. I don't see enough research clinics doing this. I understand why. It's a lot of work. You're not really getting paid for it. Sponsors are very stingy when it comes to community outreach fees because they think it's BS. Now, switching to digital platforms, there's actually a lot. One of my own is called Patient Ace. I am a co-owner of it. We use it at my site, Yuma Clinical Trials. We run ads on Facebook and Instagram for research sites at a monthly fee. And I think it's the lowest of all the competitors out there. When a patient clicks on that ad, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook, they are led to a pre-qualification page where it'll pre-screen them, ask them some basic questions, pre-screen them. Then we might have AI tools that actually schedule a pre-screening visit, whether in phone or in person, for the research site to conduct with that patient. That is increasingly how more and more patients are getting exposed to clinical research. And we have competitors, they're pricier, they're bigger, they take more profit margins for themselves because of those reasons. But they're good too. They spread the word, they get the awareness out, and someone should do a study on this, but patients are finding out about trials a lot more through private industry vendors like my own Patient Ace, if you take all of them in aggregate, as opposed to clinicaltrials.gov, for the reasons I mentioned previously. So that's how patients find trials. And the bottom line is there's so much work that needs to be done in this vertical beyond tech. I think the tech stuff, the digital vendors that are out there, the recruitment vendors like us, there's enough of that to serve the market. But what we need is awareness. We need more grassroots individuals. We need more patient advocacy groups getting involved in research. There are some people I've interviewed on the podcast that actually work in these for these advocacy groups and actually go and do these kind of things with those advocacy groups to tell them about clinical research opportunities. That's what we need. As we're getting more ramped up and hyped up with AI and tech, we actually need more low-tech solutions to get patients in the communities interested in research, not just from the research sites themselves, like I mentioned, all sites should be doing. It is not efficient. This is why most sites don't do it, but it's needed. And I think that's where the advocacy groups come in and the nonprofits and things like that, which I've interviewed people on the show before, and with organizations like our own, with the Save Our Sites and Latinos in Clinical Research, we're trying to do a better job at getting these grassroots movements in different communities going. So that's what we need more of, and we also need more entrepreneurs going and finding busy private practices that don't do research and educating those physicians on the benefits of bringing clinical research to their practice and to their community. So that's, in a nutshell, how patients find trials and some ways for this to be improved. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Let me know what your thoughts are. Bye-bye.